Welcome to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz. Wanted to ask, do you ever worry about the food that's available in your neighborhood? There's a fight going on all over the country about what sort of food is available and what sort of food people are eating. Before we get into the discussion, let's take a look at the movie Food Fight.
You've been watching TV all day. Get off the couch. You know what? Why don't you get up, go to the store, and bring back some food?
Established the norm that seed can be owned as their property, royalties can be collected. We will depend on them for every seed we grow, every crop we grow. If they control seed, they control food, they know it. It's strategic. It's more powerful than bombs. It's more powerful than guns. This is the best way to control the populations.
That's what the streets them say. That's what my least them say. That's what the Babylon say. We call upon the lips and get popped the same way now. That's what the Pentagon say. That's what the general say. That's what the empire say. But death down your throat, you get dropped the same way.
There's a war going on inside, no man is safe from DDTs, PCBs. Every corner in the hood got a KFC. A McD's, it's crack speed like RED. Bullish, the pulpit, so caffeine. Kit Kat like a click clack, holes in their jeans. So everything at the market ain't all what it seems. Little Debbie busting biscuits and sugar hot beans. Yeah, ain't nothing but a G thing. GMO, MSG, genocide, like street gangs. Aspartame, a street cane. Monsanto was Rambo, round up with ammo. Who would've known you could die from a diabetes and the itis from the dairy and the dose of the high-fructose. If your ribs too close, so you might start a ride, might be a food fighter.
That's what the streets them say. That's what my least them say. That's what the Babylon say. We call upon the lips and get popped the same way now. That's what the Pentagon say. That's what the general say. That's what the empire say. But death down your throat, you get dropped the same way.
They shootin'. Made you look at the labels on the food that you cook. Just say no to the cocoa box, cause when you Google the ingredients you might get got. Is your milk on drugs? Cause your brain on Fox. Factory farm and spawn in the matrix plot. Globally warm and the saw enough cows and knocks. Driving the climate, driving the Hummer or not. Drive in like a drive-by. The cola serves supersize with a side of super lies. So tell me what's more gangster than that? Bullets and burgers to both blades, burners to black. Breakfast is a little like Texas. Petrol is everything that you're eating on. My pet store is backyard like Cheech and Chong. My school lunch pack a punch, food fighters on.
That's what the streets them say. That's what my least them say. That's what the Babylon say. We call upon the lips and get popped the same way now. That's what the Pentagon say. That's what the general say. That's what the empire say. But death down your throat, you get dropped the same way.
What's beef? Beef is when you 12 years old and obese. Clogged arteries, can't see your own feet until you up in ICU. Guaranteed to be in ICU. From that processed food, suicide is a suicide. Don't want no microwaves, no pesticides. Fast food, slow death in disguise. It's the wild, wild westernized world of deception and lies. What's beef? Beef is when you starve in a famine. Nothing won't grow when the land stays barren. Pollution in the river, mercury in the salmon. What sense do it make to be at war with the planet? We at war for the mind, so impressionable. Instead of vegetables, we reach for Red Bulls. Poor diets kill more brothers than pistols. We fighting for our lives like Michael Vick's pit bulls. Dog eat dog, America eats the young. We dying from beef, but more from the meat than the gun. Bullets for breakfast and mass murder meals. Enemy of the state, and your plate is the battlefield in this food fight. Food fight. Food fight.
That's what the streets them say. That's what my least them say. That's what the Babylon say. Been called up on the lips and get popped the same way now. That's what the Pentagon say. That's what the general say. That's what the empire say. But death down your throat, you get dropped the same way. That's what the streets them say. That's what my least them say. That's what the Babylon say. Been called up on the lips and get popped the same way now. That's what the Pentagon say. That's what the general say. That's what the empire say. But death down your throat, you get dropped the same way.
Food fight, 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 fight.
We just took a look at the movie Food Fight. My name is Don Fitz. I'm host for Green Time TV. With me I have a couple of people who've done a lot of thinking about food. I have Christine Jackson with Healthy, Effective Alternatives to Live. Do I got that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and I got Eleeahsah Ben Israel, also known as Vincent McKinney. Do I have that right?
You got it right.
And with Hebrew Israelites. Now, I just want to ask both of you, was there anything about the movie that did you have any reaction to it? Do you think it's an accurate portrayal of what sort of food is available where a lot of folks live?
I thought it was very accurate. I thought it was kind of humorous, so I think it'll do what it's supposed to do as far as getting the youth involved in knowing how to make proper food choices.
Eleeahsah, did you have any thoughts about it?
I thought it was good. It fits right in with the hip hop generation. They can, really understand and move with it. There's a couple of other ones that are out, like Eating or Forks Over Knives. And so those appeal to more adult folks. So I thought the hip hop generation would blend in well with this one.
Yeah, I really liked what both of y'all said about the younger generation, because and I could appreciate it too. And I think people of any generation can appreciate it, but when you get to some of the ones that are straight, documentary, that sometimes, the teenagers might not be that much into it. Well, what are your general thoughts about some of the problems with the way that people eat now? I just want to ask both of y'all.
Well, I think that the problems are generated based on what's available.
Right.
As the movie points out, if the corner store is only selling Pop-Tarts versus oranges, then the problem therein lies with too much sugar or processed foods. And that's one of the main things that we want people to try to get away from is processed food. So they need fresh foods that are being offered, and it should be mandatory. It should be mandatory that every store in every neighborhood carries a certain amount of fresh food versus processed foods.
Yeah, I see that in a lot of places. You go in and you want to grab something quick, and there's no option for an apple or a banana. Eleeahsah, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, my thought is that in where we are now in 2013, that it's very important for us to look at what has happened in the last, say, 10, 20, 30 years. And when we look at that, we can realize that there's been a lot of cancers, heart attacks, different things that are happening to us in general, and we can now say absolutely. There was a time when we were like, oh, why is all this happening? But now we can absolutely say, honestly, without a question, that food is the reason why we have so many diseases and issues in terms of health in the world today.
They say 90% of all disease starts in the colon. And how does it get in your colon? If it goes through the mouth first. So it is exactly what you are eating. If what you are eating is not conducive to health, and most of the time if it's not coming out of the garden, it's not. A
lot of people are really skeptical that there could be a connection between food and cancer. but I have an article from a peer-refereed scientific journal, which is very good. I always advise students to read it when I'm teaching a course about environmental psychology. And what it shows, they looked at Egyptian mummies and could tell what people died from, and they found that it was very rare for people to have cancer several thousand years ago. It's only in more recent, they had cancers, but they were rare. And it's only been more recent that all of these cancers, I mean, now I don't know what proportion of people die of cancer, but a huge proportion of people get cancer or die of it. And I mean, it's fewer people dying, it's because there's more ways to treat it, and not more ways to prevent it.
And the biggest way to prevent it, and we keep touching on it, and it's your diet. You know, your dietary nutrition, where you get your nutrition from. If your body's not getting proper nutrition, then the body's going to break down. You know, our bodies are made to naturally heal themselves. So if you don't give it what it needs to heal itself, then how can it do it? It can't do its job. It's like telling an electrician to go somewhere and do a job without any wires.
Okay. So what do you think the focus of diet should be besides fresh fruits and vegetables? Are there any other, in specific, what sort of things should we avoid? But I mean, most people are not going to eat a meal just of raw fruits and vegetables.
Well, I think it's a transitional thing. I don't think you just start out and say, you know what, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to eat all raw. But I think that's where we need to be moving to. I think it's a process that you start out, you may say, I'm going to eliminate pork. Everybody knows now that pork is not good for you. And then you move from that point. That's pretty much how I started, say, 20 years ago. We eliminated pork, then we eliminated beef, and then we eliminated fish and chicken, and we just went on down till we eliminated dairy. And so it's a process that each person has to handle from an individual, point of view.
Yeah. Did you ever go like one day a week without red meat, or one day a week without?
I did meatless Mondays.
Okay, yeah, that's popular for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's how we started. We started with meatless Mondays. I mean, well, I stopped eating pork 20 some odd years ago, and then, like you said, it was the beef, because I mean, your body tells you when you know that you're not healthy, your body will tell you certain things that you just should not eat, and that's one good way to start is the elimination diet. Eliminate certain things, and then like for 3 weeks, 21 days, and then gradually add it back in. If you eliminate, say for instance, for me, I did corn. I eliminated corn for 21 days, added it back in slowly, and I noticed different skin eruptions?
Abrasions?
Eruptions.
Skin eruptions, okay.
Skin eruptions after I introduced it back in, so I know now that processed corn, I can't have it.
Right.
So that's a good way to start.
But what about raw corn? Does regular corn?
I never added it back in. It scared me so. The way that my skin broke out, it scared me so that I just never added it back in. And then I saw the movie Genetically Modified. What is it? Genetic Roulette.
Right, Genetic Roulette.
And I'm just like, I'm so anti-corn now. It's just ridiculous. I'm like running from bags of Doritos like the guy in the movie.
Yeah, the thing about that too is now, here in 2013, the way that you can eat and have a vegan diet, you can eat hot dogs, hamburgers. They got vegan hot dogs, vegan hamburgers, vegan chicken, vegan steak, whatever you name. They have it in a made meatless. Whereas 20 years ago, they didn't have that.
Right. And you got to be careful with that too.
You have to be careful with it, but it's a transitional. It's a way to transition yourself away from just eating meat.
Okay, and one of the things which I think is really important is to make sure that what your alternative is tasty and good, and learning how to cook and learning how to prepare foods. Because I know when I gave up meat, I thought, well, I'm going to eat as much meat as I want to eat. And so what I did was I learned how to fix other food that wasn't meat, and so then I just didn't want it. And so I wasn't punishing myself by having no meat.
And that's what I know with my organization, Healthy, Effective Alternatives to Live. That's what we do. We help people transition, because my transition was difficult, and I had someone to hold my hand through the process. He had been a vegetarian for 10 years, so he helped me go through the process, took me to the grocery store, showed me what to buy, which cultures that I could eat, like at restaurants, going to Thai and Asian and different places like that.
A lot of restaurants have really a lot of good alternatives. Okay, we're going to take a break now. We will be back in just a minute to finish our discussion of food fight. Welcome back to Green Time. I'm host Don Fitz, and with me I have a couple of guests who we've all been discussing a Food Fight, the movie that we showed at the beginning of this episode. I have with me Eleeahsah Ben Israel with the Hebrew Israelites, and I have Christine Jackson with Healthy, Effective Alternative to Live. Okay.
You got it.
Okay. Now, during break, you were just telling me that there might be a problem with food contributing to the crime rate. A lot of people haven't made any sort of connection there. What do you see as happening?
It was explained to me a couple of years ago, and I've given it a lot of thought because it was so thought-provoking. So they described it to me as you have a bull, the father, then you have the mother cow, the baby calf, and the hormones that these animals are emitting as they watch their family members going to the slaughterhouse. Those hormones, fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, or all that those feelings, or all those hormones that those feelings emit are being transmitted into the bloodstream, into that meat. And that meat is being sold in our communities. So these children are being raised on this meat, on those hormones. They're being raised on anger, frustration, depression. I mean, even in the womb, the child is getting this nutrition from the mother. So that in itself, you have babies being born already angry, already ready to hurt somebody. I mean, you have all this crime in our neighborhoods, and the diet. When you have sugar, you have these drugs, the DDTs and the preservatives, the artificial colors, the artificial flavoring, all that, those are drugs.
That's right.
So you have a generation of people who are raised up on drugs and angry meat.
And the things they get in the food. Now, that's an interesting idea about the animal being killed and what's going through the animal's mind. And of course, there's got to be, all sorts of extra hormones being pumped up. I've never read any research on that, so I can't say if that's true or not. I have read a lot of research on the pesticides and the other bad things. But one of the things that I do know, which is very dangerous about meat in particular, is that the way that they kill cattle in the United States is basically they hit something into the brain, that then causes the explosion through the spinal column. So you have nerve tissue going throughout the meat. And nerve tissue is what transmits mad cow disease. And so the nerve tissue should never be in meat. And so
we're eating this.
I know it's really not good for you.
It's really not good for you. And the FDA, really needs to be dismantled or checked, or there needs to be some sort of system, like somebody needs to hold them accountable for saying, oh, it's okay to eat that, it's okay to eat this, it's okay to eat that. You're killing people. They don't care about your health. They don't care whether you live or die. That's why we have organizations such as the Hebrew Israelites and Healthy, Effective Alternatives to Live and Green Time, where we have to come out and we have to make it known. We care about your health. We want to see you better. So reach out to us and we'll reach out to you.
Right. Now, what we've talked about so far is food, and we really have not covered drink. So, Eleeahsah, I wanted to ask you, do you prefer Coke or Pepsi? Which one is the healthier choice?
Well, I prefer water because both of those, are just detrimental to your health. So to say whether do you want to die from the gun or the knife? Both of them will kill you.
When I was in elementary school in the 1950s, I can remember very clearly that a teacher brought a piece of meat to school one day and a can of Coke. And she poured the Coke into a bottle and then put the meat in there, and then she had some other meat and she put that in water. And she said, when we come to school tomorrow, you can look at that. And the Coke had started to dissolve the meat, but the meat that was in water was pretty much the same way that it had been the day before. And she said, well, that's what it's doing to your body.
Exactly.
I've never heard of anybody doing that in school.
Very good teacher.
I've never heard of anybody doing that these days in school. It's more like a school is going to say, well, we have a contract to sell Coke or Pepsi
in
the vending machine, so we don't want to lose the contract.
And the thing about that is, I see babies, that can barely walk, and the parents are giving them Pepsi or soda, you know,
Right.
and it's like, are you for real?
Right, and you add that with a Twinkie, or you know, for breakfast you're going to give the baby a Twinkie and a soda, or even if you've been diagnosed with something that you know you don't want high fructose corn syrup to be your drink of choice. Really, try some lemon water. It'll help to break the addiction.
Okay. Well, lemon water. Yeah, you know, whenever I'm out eating and people, you know, are throwing away their lemon away, say, "Hey, don't throw away that lemon. Give me that lemon."
And you wonder why you have overactive children, and then the next thing you know, they want to drug them up because he's too active. And so this is this cycle we have.
Right.
The kids are eating crazy. They go to school, then they're diagnosed, you know, with a problem, and we need to give them drugs
More
to calm them
drugs.
down. And so we have a whole cycle of craziness.
And then that's why the crime is back to the crime again.
Exactly.
That's why there's so much crime. It's out of control. It's drugs, drugs, drugs. The sugar is a drug. It's just like any white crystallized substance, heroin, cocaine. It's a drug. If you don't believe me, try getting off of it for 2 weeks and watch your body go into reactions. It's a drug. Stop with the sugar. Drink lemon water. It'll help break the addiction.
The closest thing to cocaine.
Okay.
Sugar is the closest
Now
thing.
we've talked about food and drink, but we haven't talked. You're starting to touch, Eleeahsah, you're starting to touch on the whole issue of the way that we live, in the sense that in schools, you know, they get rid of recess, but then give kids drugs. What sort of things do both of y'all think are important for changing the way that we live in addition to our food, or the way that we eat and drink?
You gotta move. You gotta move. You gotta get up and move. You gotta get some exercise. You gotta get your heart pumping. You gotta breathe. Deep breathing, meditation, fitness, some type of fitness routine. All those are very important.
I think that along with that, the environment plays a key role. So when you talk about your diet, exercise, the air you breathe, the water you drink, and water is key. A lot of people don't get enough water.
That's
and
right.
Water is so important. They say that if you drink a glass of water in the morning on a consistent basis, that it can add 10 years to your life. So I think that we're getting away from drinking water. You know, a lot of people don't want to drink water if it's not sweet.
Right.
But water is the key.
Yeah, addicting kids to sugar and beverages is one of the worst things. Now, Christine, we just have about a minute left. Could you summarize in about 30 seconds what you think is the most important thing for the viewer to take with them, the most important idea that you would like to leave people with?
The most important thing that I would like to leave people with is you are in charge of your health. Don't be brainwashed into thinking that someone else cares more about you than you. There's nothing outside of yourself that is more important to yourself than you. Focus on yourself and what's best for you. Make decisions for your highest good when it comes to your health and the health of your babies.
Eleeahsah Ben Israel, could you summarize in about half a minute what you think are the most important concepts for the viewer to take with them?
I think everything we talked about is very important, but one thing we didn't touch on that I really want to touch on, and that is in 2010, the United Nations came out and said that everyone in the world needs to be moving towards a vegan diet in order to save the environment and because of fossil fuels. And no one is even talking about it.
That is amazing. That is something that scientists have said over, and there's just one group after another who said that we really need to be taking meat out of the diet. It's one of the most contributors. I want to thank Eleeahsah Ben Israel. I want to thank Christine Jackson. I want to thank everybody for tuning into Green Time, and I want to ask you to tune in this time next week.